All right, good afternoon. And today's topic, we're going to talk about making PVC drill holders. They're not hard to do, it's cheap to do, and they come incredibly handy. Now, the one in the picture up here before we get into the steps shows this guy's got a multitude of drills. I don't. I just took some PVC and I made two. And I put them in different locations out in my garage. And if I'm using my cordless, I can just set it up in there under a shelf like he has in the picture. But this guy's got a multitude of them, so he made a whole bunch. So this is his configuration, and he just zaps them up under a shelf where he's got a more storage space. It works good. So let me change the picture, and let's go through the steps. We'll get right after it. No long intros. Let's get right to how you do this and how easy it is. Okay, on the top left, step 1. Figure out the length that you want, and then cut it with a miter saw or a hacksaw or whatever saw you have. It's a nice cleaner, nice straight cut with a miter, but it depends on what you have in your shop. You can use your drill as a guide to the depth that you want before you cut this, but you can see where the two marks are on here. So make it deep enough so that when you set that drill in, it's going to come up to that first mark, that the nose of that and everything is going to stick down and doesn't hit the wall. So make it a little bit longer if you're unsure. And then as we go through the steps, you can always shorten it down with a simple cut. So that's step 1. Step 2 over on the far right is go ahead and make your lines, draw them apart like I did here in the picture, and make yourself an arc. You can use a can, you can use anything that's round or nothing at all, because what you're going to do is in step 3, which is just at the bottom to the right of me, you're going to use a hole saw. That's the best thing to use. It's a nice clean cut. And you're going to put it right at the crown of this like he did here in the picture. I pulled these off of the web and then I made them into steps is what I did to simplify things while we go through the discussion. But then you're going to use a hole saw and you're going to drill that hole down through there as soon as you figure out that width. Now, when you go, you can use a sawzall, a jigsaw, a handsaw, whatever you want to cut those long parallel lines. But you're going to cut them right up to where you went through it with a hole saw. Then you can use some sanding paper and you can take all the little burrs off. But this is how you do this, and I don't give you the exact measurements because drill widths are different. So you're going to kind of have to play around and figure out the width that you want to make these lines, the parallel ones. Then, like I said, just cut them out by whatever means that you can. A sawzall works pretty easy. Handsaw, yes, you can use a, like a hole saw or something like that. It's going to take you a few more minutes to cut it. But any one of those, a jigsaw is what I used on one of mine. It worked perfectly easy when I had it in a vise. So jigsaw with a rough cutting blade because I know that I'm going to sand it down the edges afterwards and it'll look clean. Okay, let me take these down. Let's go through the other steps and then we'll go to questions. Okay, let's take a look at the upper left now. This is where it was rough cut and you can see it looks rough. A couple lines are wavy, but this is more a functional thing, like I say, I always tell you, than a beauty contest, so don't worry about it. You can use sandpaper, or if you have a little sanding drum, like in the picture on the upper right, you can take down that wave and that unevenness, and you can create this nice smooth surface all the way around. Get yourself some, it doesn't matter, 120 grit, 220, 150, whatever you got, sanding paper. You could do a little bit of hand sanding under the lip and on top, get all the burrs and stuff off. And what you're going to be left with is the one on the bottom right. Now, the one on the bottom right over here is showing you with them all cleaned up, and they're getting ready to be hung and used. So it isn't that hard. You can do this with simple shop tools that you have, even if you have to sand by hand. It's not a big deal. You're going to only create them once anyway, and I doubt most of us are going to make 6 or 7 of these because we don't need that many cordless items, but you might. If you do, you'll know how to make these over and over. All right, let me change it. Let's get to the last part of how to make these. Okay, now if you have a drill press or even a hand drill, you're going to drill these holes just like it shows you in the picture, because this is what's going to enable you to mount it securely up under a shelf, or you might have another way you want to attach it. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Now, like I said, I have these in 2 different locations out in my garage, because I can be working in one area with it. I can just slide it up in there when I'm done. And I have in another area, I have 2 cordless drills anyway, and I don't use them all the time, but they're really handy because I can put it up out of the way of my workbench and I can just reach up, grab it real quick and get back to what I'm doing. So it's one of these things, to each their own, and how you want to, configure these in your shop or your garage. But they are real handy, and they're real handy for more than just drills. You can play around with cutting and whatever else to accommodate different kinds of tools. I'll show you some pictures here in a minute that I got off of the forum of what other people have done. But this is that easy. This is all you have to do, and you're ready to zap these up there. The PVC is very inexpensive to go buy, so the choice is yours, but it's worth considering because it's one hell of a handy thing to have, to keep your drills up out of the way and they don't get knocked around and they don't take up room on your bench. Let me change the picture. Let's take a look at what other people do and we'll wrap this up. Okay, now I'm going to go through these kind of quick because I'm going to give you a whole bunch of examples of different ways you can use this PVC. Okay, picture up on the right. There he's hanging pliers, he's hanging all kinds of stuff. It drops right in through there. It was cut at a little bit of an angle. And with a screw, it's just zapped in. So this is a little bit more lighter weight. You don't need to worry about the dual screws if you don't want to. One over on the right top. These are lathe tools. Now you can use them for other kinds of tools to drop into holders if you want to. Create a little shelf along your workbench. Put this up above it with a PVC, and so your tools could just drop down in there that way. Look at the one on the bottom left. You could create these cubby holes for putting smaller items. That's a good idea. I don't have a particular use for it, but this guy did. And he puts all of his little stuff in there and it works out great. So let me tear these down. Let's keep going. Okay, take a look at the one straight up on the left. Okay, this is a repeat of what the ones we were talking about that we made. Take a look at the one over here on the right. Now the guy made a comment. What if you cut that opening a little too big? It's like, oh shoot, I destroyed the project, I ruined it. No, you didn't. What he did is it even increased the width, and he could hang the drills upside down from the battery pack sliding in. Now, down on the bottom left, this is a way that you can do your gardening tools out in your shed. The one in the middle, you can make it like a tree like this, and you can stick them in on both the right and the left side if you have an area going up a wall or something. It's just another way to organize. Now, I took a picture, I did. I took a picture and I put it over here on the bottom right for you. This shows you a guy, he's also painted his. You can paint them, and I've made this comment before. I would use 220 or something, lightly scuff these up so the paint's got something to grab onto if you're going to paint them. Maybe a couple of coats, you'll get this nice green, blue, whatever color you want to do. Those things are possible too. It shows you the underneath side looking up, but he decided to go with green. Okay, let me take these down. Let's keep moving because I want to show you all these examples rapidly to give you other ideas. Let's take a look at these three real quick. This guy just cut and made these little tiny ones that you can zap into the wall to drop screwdrivers in. He even told you it's 1 inch round PVC. You could probably get away with 3/4, but 1 inch seemed to work the best because it also holds his crescent wrenches. One over on the right, he just drilled holes through it and dropped his screwdrivers into it like that in a set. That's a pretty good idea if you've got a place for it. The one on the bottom here in the middle, this guy used a large enough round one because he uses a lot of caulking and sealers, and this keeps everything organized for him rather than have the tubes laying around everywhere. Okay, let's tear this down. Let's keep moving. Okay, so let's take a look at these and we'll wrap this up. Now the one on the upper left, he put on his ceiling joist out in his garage this bracket of 2x4s and some plywood. He used the whole saw cut holes, put these pieces of PVC in there, and he uses it to slide his bar clamps into. It's pretty handy, keeps them up out of the way, especially with the overhead because it's kind of like dead space area, and you can use it now to organize and keep things in a much neater order. So it's a good idea. Take a look on the bottom. It's just another way of showing you these cutouts before you go ahead and you drill the holes. I put it up here because there's a couple of questions here in just a minute. We'll get to the question part of this, but let's look at the picture on the top right. This is where somebody cut them at a little bit of a bevel, drilled a hole, screwed them into the side of the wall, and used them to drop his tools in. So you can do that too. Okay, let's go to the questions and we'll wrap up the discussion here on PVC tool holders. I primarily did it for drill holders, but there are many other uses and I went ahead and included them in the video. Okay, questions. When marking the straight lines that go to where the hole saw is, what are you using? Anything that's a straight edge, you can use a piece of scrap steel, you can use a square, you can use a ruler, anything you want. Just go ahead and make your lines, go ahead and cut it out. If it's not wide enough, open it up a little bit more, and you'll get the idea. It'll work perfectly fine. Once you get the first one done, you'll understand this isn't that bad to do, and if you made it too wide, like I said, make it wider, and hang it from the battery, facing down like we talked about in the previous picture. Any other questions? Well, like I said, I mean, you just need a way to saw it. You could use a hole saw. I think a jigsaw with a rough cutting blade is the easiest way to do it. Secure the pipe in a vise, cut both sides, you're done. Hole saw, it's easy. If you don't have one, they're not that expensive. At Home Depot or Lowe's, they have a huge assortment. You can even buy a kit that's got many different sizes of hole saws in them. They'll fit on the end of your cordless drill or corded drill or drill press, any way you want to do it. And then you just go ahead and bore that hole out and then just do your other cuts. So I think that answers your question. Sandpaper, any garnet paper, anything you got laying around will clean it up. What size holes to drill for screws, that's up to you. I just drill small ones because I pretty much use drywall screws because I got a ton of them laying around to zap things like this up. So I don't use anything large anyway. Yeah, I know your key. The question's common. What length? What length? What length? Don't worry about the length, okay? Go ahead and cut it plenty long, okay? And then go ahead, use your hole saw, use your jigsaw, cut this thing out. Then go ahead and slide your cordless into it, and you'll figure out how much longer you need it so it doesn't bottom out. Not a big deal. You don't have to make that last cut till towards the very end. Then go ahead and, like I said, just drill your holes through it. That's the easiest way. That's the way I did it because different cordless tools or corded ones, I have a couple of corded drills, a Bosch, Makita, blah, blah, blah. They're different lengths, so I don't determine that length until towards the end. Okay, I think that's about it for the questions. I didn't want this to be a long video. This is meant to give you a lot of ideas so that you can go out in your garage or shop. You can do something similar as a way to organize and keep your tools squared away, or for your drill, your cordless or corded. I keep saying cordless, it's what I use most of the time, but I do have corded drills. They will fit into here too, as long as you make them correctly. Okay, I'm the Home Handyman, and I hope you people keep following me. Click subscribe, give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment if there's something else that I didn't cover in enough depth, and I'll try to write you back as soon as I can. You folks have a good day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.